Welcome back to Seek Strength, welcome back to Seekistan, and of course, welcome to the new show on Mondays at 6 pm somewhere. Today's episode is, just to give you a bit of pre-warning, Gurf isn't here. Today's episode has some of the most insane squats you're likely ever to see on the new show, both in terms of volume and just mentalness. So stay tuned. As always, the Seek Strength News Show is brought to you by Seek Sleep. Seek Sleep contains all the vital nutrients and minerals you need to get the best quality sleep. 30 sachets in a box, so it's a month's supply. Follow the link down below and you can order yours there, or you can get it on subscription for a slight discount. So up first today, we have Nino Pizzolatto. And Nino's here with an absolutely gorgeous 170 kilo clean and jerk. He is just a technically very pleasing lifter to look at, and the speed, the power, everything here looks really, really good. Obviously this is very, very light for Nino, but it's great to see him training. It's great to see him kind of ramping back into more regular training after all of his injuries and all the kind of mix-ups for competitions last year. So everybody's peaking towards Worlds now, so I'm very, very interested to see what he does and what Team Italy as a whole do. So speaking of legends of the game, up next we have our pretty much weekly installment of Lascia Talakazzi. Lascia is here going with a no jump, or what you might call no foot movement clean and jerk. No foot movement clean and then a split jerk afterwards. Going 200, 220, 230. And this is the absolute kind of casual nature of Lascia's lifting. We almost deem this to be non-noteworthy at this point when Lascia is doing 230, because it is so far below his kind of maximum on the clean and jerk. But this looks very, very kind of pedestrian, very easy for him. He looks to be in good shape. He looks to be extremely strong and powerful at the moment. Up next then, we have another Georgian lifter with an absolutely gorgeous 170 kilo snatch. And this is Tornike Tabatadze. I think I'm absolutely butchering that, but this is on Benson Robles' Instagram channel. So Benson, as far as I know, is an American weightlifter over training in Georgia at the moment, and in the kind of classic Georgian fashion, we get an insight into people's lifts from other people's Instagrams. So like we see Dr. Georgie with Lascia, and this is a very, very nice looking 170. I do know that Tourniquet did, I think, 165 at European Juniors or European Under-23s this year. So interesting to see the 170 here, and the 170 looks very, very easy, to be honest. Moving on then from Georgia to the Philippines, and here we have, I think, Albert Ian, but I'm not sure if I've gotten that name right, with a 140 kilo hang power clean and jerk. And as far as I'm aware, he's 17 at the moment. So absolutely crazy weights. He looks to be in a very lightweight class as well. I would guess kind of mid 60 kilos. Extreme speed on this hang power clean. Very, very nice. The kind of classical Asian style technique of very much knees out to the side. And I think one of the noteworthy things on this is just how sharp the jerk looks. So it looks very, very nice. Really excited to see what this young lifter does in the next kind of few years, but looks very, very promising. And now to begin our foray into absurdity. We're going to have some high volume squats here, pretty crazy weights, and it's starting off with our weekly Lee Sang section of the new show. Lee Sang doing 200 kilos for 15 reps. 200 kilos for 15 reps. I just don't know what to say at this point with Lee Sang. Every week, it's insane volume. Every week, it's insanely heavy. And every week, you realise he's only 70 kilos body weight. So this is absolutely crazy. What I will say is each of these squats appear to be about as difficult as the one was before it. So all kind of the same speed. He doesn't really look to be slowing down. He definitely takes a bit more rest as he gets later on in the set. But absolutely insanely impressive. He did say it's a new 15 rep or 15 rep max for him. I think something he was saying, maybe 220 for 3x3 was the original plan, but he ended up going for this. And my personal favourite part of this is Jan Hack commenting that he's going to do 20 reps at 200 kilos next week. I stand by, extremely interested and with bated breath to see Jan Hack doing that. This is absolutely insane. Right. And to just go further down into insanity, here we have Carlos Morin. Carlos is here with 300 kilos for 8 reps. So he said he could have done it for 10, but he did squatting on Saturday and benching last night. But this is absolutely absurd. This is from 6 days ago. 300 kilos or 660 odd pounds for the Americans in the group. And just like no risk, no signs of slowing down. Absolutely insane. Obviously much more of a kind of low bar powerlifting style squat here, but still insanely impressive. Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy what people are doing with volume, or doing with incredible weight for quite high volume as well. Overall, very, very nice looking squat. As always with the kind of powerlifting style squat, an insane group of spotters around him, but overall, very, very impressive. 300 kilos for 8. To be honest, any amount of reps to 300 kilos is just insanity. So up next then we have that huge Asian guy, or Andy Huang, aka, with 332 kilos, I think, or give or take a few kilos for 4 reps. These squats are so nice. So my main kind of focus on these, or the main thing I always notice when I'm watching him squat, is he has a very hard kind of bottom of his squat. So a lot of powerlifters, if they're kind of not bottoming out the squat fully, you'll see them kind of having this small backstop or small back wall in their squat. As they sit down, there might be a bit more sink on one rep or a bit less sink on the other. With Andy's, in this case, very, very hard stop in the bottom leads to a very kind of explosive upward drive as he's coming up out of the bottom in the squat. So very nice looking squats. These back squats look to be pretty high bar. Like when you look at the barbell position, but also when you look at the torso orientation, very little incline forward with the torso. These are really, really nice squats overall. Positions are great. Obviously the weight is absolutely absurd for 4 reps. It's just crazy. Right, and then not to be left down, not to be mistaken, up next we have the regular slot of Jesus Oliveras, the world's strongest powerlifter is what rising lifters are calling him here. So 433 kilos for a couple of reps in the back squat. Absolutely insane. Just a belt and a pair of knee sleeves on. Very, very impressive squatting. Today's news show is incredibly squat dominant, but to be perfectly honest, there's none of these squats that should be left out. All of them, I feel, need to be appreciated. This 400 kilos plus in a back squat is just absolute absurdity. Nearly 1,000 pounds. And to be doing this for a double, and to be perfectly honest, doing it for a double that looks to be quite conservative or quite easy for Jesus here. Like just the speed of that drive up is absolutely insane. We just talked about it on that huge Asian guy squat. That kind of strong, fast drive up out of the bottom. The first rep particularly here is just absurdly fast. So as always, he's just doing crazy things with a barbell, and particularly doing crazy things with the barbell back squat. Right, up next now we have a lifter lifting in Dublin. Those of you who've watched the news show before will remember, of course, Nicholas Duprees, the South African powerlifter. Nicholas was competing in the Abs Pro Series in Dublin, as far as I know, and just absolutely insane. 425 kilos for a single. I'm not sure what body weight Nicholas is sitting at the moment, but pretty lean, pretty fucking strong. 425 kilos for a single, and to be honest, it looks very, very solid on this. Yeah, just absolutely crazy. As far as I know, Nicholas came second overall in the Abs Pro Series, but just an insanely impressive squat. So fast. And this kind of newer age of non-geared powerlifting, just a belt and wraps or a belt and knee sleeves, we're just seeing some absolutely crazy squat results. So these kind of weights were just unheard of without a squat suit. Even single ply squat suits up until not that long ago, and now guys are doing them raw. So it's just absolutely insane. As always, we love to see Nicholas's lifting. He's featured on the news show countless times at this point, but unbelievably impressive squat. Now, going from the more standard into the slightly more obscure, going from the back squat to the front squat, here we have 240 kilos, 530 pounds for 4 reps from Harley Burke. I'm actually just unsure what to say at this point. Looks very, very easy for him on these first couple of reps. Just wearing a pair of knee wraps, some Nike 2s. Interestingly here, wearing straps. They look to be just like pulling straps or weightlifting pulling straps. Absolutely insane. Goes for the 5th rep. He said he had to duct tape the 2.5 kilo plates on just to try and keep them on the barbell, but so impressive. Like we're kind of seeing it on a weekly or definitely a monthly basis now at the moment of people doing crazier weights than we've ever previously seen on video with the front squat. Obviously, the front squatting with straps is something you probably shouldn't try at home unless you're absolutely massive, crazy strong, and maybe trying to eke out a bit more of a front rack position for the sport of weightlifting. But this is just absolutely insane. Barbells hopping off his shoulders at the top of each squat here. So really, really nice. I'd actually love to see another angle of Harley's squat from like the front or front of 45 degrees, just to see that kind of torso inclination. But overall, absolutely insanely impressive. So up next now we've something that I don't think we've actually featured on the news show before, and this is a heavily weighted dip, or a crazy heavily weighted dip. This is Tonio Zeedler, and he's doing a 160 kilo weighted dip for reps. I actually don't think I've ever seen weighted dips done this heavily before, particularly not for reps. Just wearing a pair of like elbow warmers while he's doing it. This is absolute insanity. So 160 kilos, that's 6 25 kilo red plates and then an extra 10 on each side. So it's just an extra 10 on one side, not on each side. 160 kilos for a weighted dip. I'm sure people have done far heavier than these for kind of singles and stuff, but to be honest, I haven't seen 160 kilos done for reps before. It gets like 3 reps done. It's absolutely insane. You'll see the dip bar attachment is actually bending at its kind of fulcrum point on the wall. Just insanely impressive. And speaking of insanely impressive feats of strength, we have Mart Sol. So Mart Sol, the OG for crazy squat weights, crazy pull weights. I also remember seeing him do like maybe 200 kilos for walking lunges a few years ago. So he's here with a 210 kilo clean, followed by 250 kilo clean pulls for 7. Notably on these as well, they're floating clean pulls, so significantly harder than just doing like a clean pull, then dropping it, then going again, then dropping it, then going again. Strapped in floating clean pulls to like an inch off the knee. Insanely impressive. Then 230 kilos, so 500 pounds for an RDL for 6 reps. Kind of very much a hips back RDL rather than hips staying in place and shoulders going forward, but still just insanely impressive. And then by the looks of it, we have in the same session 300 kilos for 4 reps in the high bar back squat. Mart has one of the nicest high bar back squats with insanely high weights in the world, but notably in the kind of weightlifting world, he squats just absolutely insane weights. It's interesting seeing kind of Mart's weightlifting totals versus his squat weights and his pull weights. There's definitely a bit of a debate going on there at the moment for people who are very kind of have a lot of strength in surplus for their weightlifting numbers versus those who are very efficient with their weightlifting. And it is an interesting kind of conversation to get into, an interesting topic for people to talk about. Definitely seems that some people need more of a surplus in strength to hit certain weightlifting numbers, and that maybe for those people doing the kind of training you see Mart doing, where he just really focuses on a hell of a lot of strength work, might be the most beneficial. My mind hasn't been made up fully on either of those yet, but as always, Mart's there with the crazy squat numbers, crazy pull numbers, and a very nice 210 kilo clean as well. And then finally, to conclude this week's news show, we have some stuff from the CrossFit Games. And to be honest, this is my favourite piece I've seen so far. Jack Farlow snatching 305 pounds, clean and jerking nearly 400 pounds. So I think it's like 179 kilos for the clean and jerk. Just, these numbers are insanely impressive, right? We'll talk about the snatch technique in a second, but thinking about everything that had been done so far at the CrossFit Games, and then him coming out, hitting 396 pounds or 179 points something, essentially 180 kilos for a clean and jerk, is just crazy. So let's look firstly at the snatch. There's a couple of things to talk about here. Obviously, when you look at CrossFitters snatching, a lot of them will be more limmy or limmier than when you'd see kind of like elite level international weightlifters. So the grip is out quite wide, but more notably than that, you will have a very, very wide starting pull position for the snatch. So Jack is starting out here in a kind of wider than squat stance start position. There's probably a couple of reasons for that. So the first reason we usually see CrossFitters opting for that kind of no foot movement style snatch is purely to do with the shoes they're wearing. So they're most of the time not wearing weightlifting shoes, or it's very common for them not to wear weightlifting shoes. That kind of gives a twofold answer to the question. So the first thing is not having that increased heel height. You just get the feet out a small bit wider, affords you a small bit more depth in the catch position, a small bit more depth in the squat position. Because you're wearing the flat-footed shoes, you mightn't have that same level of knees pushing forward over the toes. Obviously, weightlifting shoes allows you to push your knees way further in front of your toes, get a bit deeper underneath the barbell, get under the barbell a small bit faster. The other reason is down to the kind of sole construction of the shoes and the amount of support the shoe gives you. So obviously when we're pulling with maximal force and we have our feet underneath our hips in a standard pulling position for the snatch, you usually get those feet off the ground quite easily and then stamp them down onto the ground for a strong catch position out in our squat stance, right? When you're wearing those flatter CrossFit style shoes, the foot moves around an awful lot more inside in the shoe, and also there's an awful lot more flex in the sole of the shoe. So just moving your feet like that can oftentimes cause an awful lot of trouble for people. The feet really do move around a bit too much, especially if we're being really aggressive with that catch. So for many people, like in Jack's case here, they'll just start in that squat or that catch position with the feet. They'll take the hit a small bit on their pulling speed and pulling power, and just opt to have their feet in the finishing position at the start rather than having to move them halfway through. So thanks very much to everybody who watched. Thanks massively to everybody who contributed, sending us these different lifters on Instagram, tagging us in Instagram posts, sending them to us via email. We are massively appreciative of it. Pretty much everything in today's news show came from viewers sending us stuff. So we are hugely appreciative. If you've been sending us stuff and you don't see us putting it up on the news show, we have to call an awful lot of suggestions every week. So we're massively appreciative of it. We're appreciative of everybody who watches, everybody who comments, everybody who sends us suggestions.